in the BattleVault podcast, which was do our best to bring in voices from across the field to give different perspectives on what's going on with the happenings in Flames of War and Team Yankee. And so tonight we're lucky to be joined by Preston Jacob and Austin Copeland, both of them No Dice, No Glory collaborators, and both of them specifically working on articles for the new D-Day British release. So how about you guys introduce yourself? We'll start with Preston.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm working on a article for new units from the new D-Day British book, and I gotta say there are a lot of new units to go over.
Yeah, very cool. And you are primarily playing against British players, right?
For late war, I primarily play Americans and Germans, so I'll be kind of tackling this from how, being a Axis or Allied player, how I'm going to deal with these new British units that are coming out.
Excellent. So now, Austin, you should be a little bit more familiar to our gaming community out there. You were the Masters winner 2 years ago, and were the top-rated British player for quite a while, I believe, at that same time. Mm-hmm. And so you've been playing. That was all mid-war, but you've been playing late-war Brits too, right?
Oh yeah, Brits are near and dear to my heart. I mean, my first army I ever collected was the early war British Rifle Company, followed very quickly by the late war Paratrooper Company. So I love my Brits. It's the mainstay of my collection. So very happy to see this book come out.
Excellent. And same for me. My very first Flames of War army was a British Rifle Company, one of those original box sets where you got the whole 1,500 point force together. And they were the Italy/Tunisia Brits with this rolled up sleeves. And so they had the ATRs and Piats, and I'd use them in mid-war and late war both. And for the longest time, I just played that force. And for the longest time, the only tanks I had in my collection, Churchills, that came in that box set. So anyway, so the book, as Preston already said, it's an amazing book. If you were excited about the U.S. book, you're going to be equally excited about this one, as far as the depth, the amount of formations, the amount of command cards, all the things that go into giving the player what they want. They're pretty much here. I think we're talking nearly over 100 and some pages. We've got nearly 40 some command cards, and I can't even count the number of formations. There are just so many different formations, and some repeats. Like there's two Cromwell formations. I was not expecting that. A lot of the things I didn't expect in this book, so I was extremely surprised. And some stuff that I was convinced was going to be in a command or like a 21st Panzer book later on, for instance, like the 79th Armored Division. They're in here now. You don't have to wait. You can get right into it. And like the American book, it's broken up into 3 portions. It has a D-Day -1 for the para and airborne landing forces, then a D-Day force, which has a lot of rifle formations, and then the DD tanks, the amphibious tanks, and then it goes into the breakout, which brings in the Cromwells and motor companies and some other stuff. So I think that gives just a general overview of it, but let's turn to focusing about the new units in particular, and that's something that Preston's been working on for No Dice, No Glory. So Preston, what's different about this book above and beyond what we know from Fortress Europe?
Well, this new book brings a lot of differently trained and motivated units. You can either take, I know with a bunch of formations, you can either take the regulars, which are I guess you can consider fresh troops, or you can take Desert Rats, Desert Veterans, which are usually a little bit on the reluctant side, but they're cheaper, so you can take a lot more of it.
So taking the cheaper troops is actually something I'm a huge fan of. You know, there's what is the Russian saying? You know, quantity has a quality all of its own.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong with troops that are hit on 4. Yeah, there's some stats that may not be shining, but just having a whole bunch of them, it's that pick and choose battle. Like, what are you going to shoot? Right?
Sure. Oh, my last Adepticon I went to a year ago. This is before we went to the late war conversions. Still used the older books, the version 3 with the updates, and I ran British rifles with breaching support, and they were reluctant. And you're exactly right. Just get more of them, but they're still pretty skilled when it comes to not getting hit.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, look at the hero rifles in the Soviets. You know, you don't get a lot of them, but they're harder to hit and they're easier to save.
Yep. Very good. So, what are the most amazing new things that we have here as far as options?
Well, the first one that I want to go over is the new commando unit, which I'm going to compare them a little bit to the U.S. Rangers. They're the special forces. Now, with the commando troop, they have a few special rules. So you have the mind and heart rule, which if they start their movement step adjacent to a cliff or similar terrain feature, you can roll a skill test, and if successful, the entire troop may move at a terrain dash across that. And now they also have the night attack rule, which I think every British player is familiar with.
Yeah, and I don't think too many actually use it because of the support having to stay in the rear.
Right, exactly. But
Which
I
is
mean, these
interesting
guys
though
are elite.
with the commandos because most of the stuff that you want to use with the commandos is all in the formation. So yeah, you
Hmm.
might leave some of your your M10s behind or something like that. But if you're playing this commando list, everything that's in the formation itself is coming out, and they're deadly in the assault.
One thing that I think there might be some confusion on out there was in the British D-Day starter box that it was kind of shown. I think there was some mention there about two Piat teams in a rifle company. Did you guys see that in any of these lists?
So there's the good news and bad news on that one. So the good news is yes, in the airborne and air landing company, you can, for an additional point per platoon, per infantry platoon, take an additional Piat. The bad news is for your regular rifle company, that's not an option.
Heartbreaking. But that is new though, right? The British Paras could not have done that previously to this, could they?
So yes and no. So they kind of redid the whole. They took away formation HQ attachments. So in the old British airborne book, the HQ could take an additional up to 3 Piats, I think, for 20 points apiece. So now they kind of farmed those out as just an additional Piat per platoon.
I
So
see.
new, yes, because in version 4 we have not been able to, as a British player, put more integral AT into our units, but now having that option for our airborne, it's very price wise. It's a good price for what you're getting.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
good. It'd be nice to see some tough, hardcore airborne troops on the board and being able to hold up against tanks.
And that's exactly what British paratroopers are going to do. I mean, they're hit on 4s, they're veterans, so they're having that 3-up skill in the assault. They're a 3-up in the assault, fearless. I mean, just all around good stats for really good on the price.
So speaking of stats, so what do these commando guys bring, Preston?
So they are fearless veterans. They're hit on a 4-up, and they have the deadly rule, which means they assault on a 2-up. So these guys are going to
Oh,
get in
nice.
close contact, and they're going to do a lot of damage.
Okay.
Now they are expensive. For a full platoon, which is 7 Bren guns and SMLE rifle teams, 1 Piat and 1 2-inch mortar, you're going to be paying 13 points.
Oh, wow. And then even more so if these guys don't upgrade though with the extra Piats.
These guys don't upgrade.
They
but
do not.
If you remember, taking these guys as a black box, so you have a few extra point, you really want to get rough and ready with someone, throw 13 points into a commando section. That's
And
your assaulting platoon right there.
You can take anywhere from 2 to 4 of those commando sections. So if you got 4 of those, I mean, you're going to be getting into assaulting range really quickly.
Wow, awesome. Very cool. So what else do we have to look forward to as far as additions go, Preston?
Well, the biggest thing I think people have been really excited for are the Cromwell tanks. So now the Cromwell is, I believe it's the same stats as a Sherman. It's front 6, side 4, top 1, and it has a direct fire of AT-10 with a 3-up firepower for the 75 millimeter.
Yep, same gun. Yep.
But the Cromwell can also take a 95 millimeter gun, which has a artillery bombardment capability. And their artillery bombardment is actually really good. It's AT-3 with a 3-up firepower. and its direct fire for the 95mm gun is AT8 with a 2-up firepower.
What is the rate of fire for the direct fire?
The direct fire, it is rate of fire 1 with slow firing. So you will suffer that penalty, but the fact that it's AT3 in bombardment, I think is really great.
Yeah, I know Austin will be very familiar with the headquarters support tanks doing bombardment from his mid-war British tank units, and so will I. We did the same, ran the same kind of list. But,
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
always handy.
And the Cromwell, I mean, it's the follow-on to those British cruiser tanks. This is the epitome of British cruiser technology in World War II. So, with that, we do see an increased tactical terrain dash, cross-country dash, and road dash across the stat line. So,
yeah, how much faster is it going?
So tactical, it's going 2 inches faster. So you get that 12. So that's the double-edged sword. You got to figure out, are you assaulting with this tank or are you just moving? Because if you move more than 10 inches, you're not going to be able to assault. But road dash and cross-country dash, this thing flies. So cross-country, you're going to be moving 28 inches in a Cromwell, which is ridiculously fast. And on a road, you can almost cross half the table in a turn.
I love it. I have an Irish Guards, British Sherman force. And of course, having played Crusaders, I love fast dash moves. And if there's one thing that I really enjoy is laying down a lot of smoke and just rushing right up behind that smoke and get just cover so much of the board in one swipe. And so I'm going to have to think really hard about adding yet another British formation to my collection.
I mean, it's going to be an interesting choice. Now, these Cromwells do come at a premium. They are, for 375mm Cromwells, you're paying 17 points. So
they're not a cheap unit to buy. But it is fair to say that you can get them as a ray trace squadron, so they do get the scout rule.
Yeah, the recce one. So then that's important to note. I think we mentioned that earlier. There's actually 2 Cromwell formations. 8th Desert Rats version.
Yes, and those ones. Let me just scroll to it.
Those ones being the 8th Hussars, the recce ones.
Yes, those are the 8th Hussars. The Desert Rats, they come as reluctant trained. So their motivation isn't as good, but they are cheaper.
Yeah, but they're also they're more than trained because they are still hit on 4, and that's problem. A lot of us played version 3 and version 4 both. We tend to think in 2 categories, but there's actually a whole bunch of more nuances now to ratings. So, is it veteran because it's hit on 4s? No, that just means it's cautious. But it's the skill that comes in, the blitz moves, the move orders, and all those and the assault.
Yeah, all their skills they're doing on a 4-up, and they're being hit on a 4-up. So I'm not seeing anything about these guys that could be a downside.
No, not really. And your remount, you have the cautious not stupid rule with these Desert Rats. So you're not remounting on a 5, you're actually remounting on a 3, which is actually really good. And
that's huge for a reluctant troop.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And another really big thing about this Cromwell troop, the addition of the Firefly. So for 1 more point, instead of being a recce having scout, you get 3 Cromwells and a Firefly. So having that added AT-14, I mean, no one's going to argue with you about 1 point for another tank. Okay.
Yeah, but then that's going to count against that sweeping dash move, right? That's going to hold you back unless you just want to leave it way to the rear in some sort of overwatch.
I mean,
there is
not
that.
Having semi-indirect fire, that's a great idea for a Firefly.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we did not get a semi-indirect fire command card. I don't recall.
Yeah, no, I didn't see one. So
there's the one that your HQ can reroll misses, but that's 1 tank.
Right. And that's just reroll misses. Period. That's not the you must be stationary and at long.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think there's a semi-indirect card for the mid-war British tanks, but I've never taken it. It's
just too expensive. At 4 points for a platoon, it's just not worth it.
Plus, the way Austin and I both played with our British tanks and mid-wars, get in close quick. So we're interested in that standoff semi-indirect stuff.
Yeah, I think for any British player who played the Cromwells in V3, That's going to be the biggest change, is the no semi-indirect fire.
Yeah, that's good. So, what new force should we cover next?
Well,
So-
nope, Austin, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, the one that I'm really not looking forward to going up against, that's the Churchill formation. So these ones are much, much better than what British players have been playing in mid-war and with Fortress of Europe. So unlike the mid-war Churchills, these ones are front 9, side 8 with a top 2. Or you can pay an upgrade to get the late Churchill, which is front 11, side 8, top 2.
Right. Now, that's a change, isn't it, Austin, from V3? Because this is effectively the Churchill 7, and the Crocodile, which I'm sure we'll discuss later, also has that front. But in version 3, that was a 13.
Yep. So this is that over the broad horizon of them kind of reducing a lot. The bringing the 88 down to size, bringing rate of fire down on our other AT guns like the 6-pounder, 57s. This kind of brings it back down. I wouldn't say it balances out, but it definitely brings the game into where it needs to be. An 88 did have a good chance of punching through the Black Prince, and if you had kept the armor at 13, that's approaching Ferdinand style armor. So and we know that the Churchill just didn't have that armor. So I think it's a change. However, at range, a 12 is still a decent front armor up against an AT-14, even AT-16.
Sure. Right.
Having a 4-up save against the biggest gun in the game is not a bad.
I think the pack front with 88s is just becoming a little bit more popular right now.
Yeah,
it is, and that's why I think the Churchill list will garner some popularity, because those AT-12, AT-14 guns that you see, having a tank that has a decent chance of shrugging a shell, the Churchill's going to do it for you. And at 18 points for 3 of them, I mean, that's just really good.
Yeah. Now, just a note. I know. Preston already said this, but I'm just going to reiterate the point. Only one of these tanks in that platoon of 3 can be upgraded. So you're going to be relying on that misdirected target or mistaken target to swap those hits onto or at least the one that gets double hits onto the AT-11 tank.
Yeah, but with mistaken target, I mean, it's on a 3-up, so you got a 66% chance that that front 11 is taking that hit.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with jumbos, but the jumbos lead the way. I was hoping that'd be like a swap on a 2. So I kind of like to see that in this unit, because just having the 2 wingman tanks with just a front armor 8, just kind of, or is it 9?
It's front armor 9.
Yeah. Well, still, I just like to have a little more chance to swap. It just seems like it would be, because I'm sure that's how they would have run these platoons, just much like the Americans would when they had a jumbo. They let that front armor 11 guy kind of get out there and take the first hit.
Yeah, almost like a spearhead type unit.
Right.
But I mean, even front armor 9, not a whole lot is getting through that.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, Shermans are out, right? And Pack 40s are going to have a hard time at range. And so, yeah, and all the Russian.
Yeah, basically anything Russian is going to have a hard time. Pack 36s. But basically everything is going to have trouble getting through this. Even your heat weapons, you don't have side skirts on this thing, but with a side armor of 8, it's going to stop almost everything with a drop of a dice. And add to this formation something we don't have in mid-war. We have an integral artillery piece now in the squadron. In the squadron HQ, you can bring the Churchill with 95 millimeters, the Churchill CS. So another 2-gun battery.
It does have the 95 millimeter gun. Once again, it's AT-3 in bombardment with a 3-up firepower, and it does have the brutal rule in direct fire with an AT-8 2-up firepower, though it is slow firing.
Wow, impressive. I have a mid-war Churchill formation that I have rarely run. North Irish horse guys. I guess they could be War II for Italy, but they're definitely painted for the more southern theater. So I may have to look at getting some greener looking tanks for for Normandy.
I think maybe as a formation, I don't know. I'm still not sold that this is a great formation, but as a support unit for 18 points, throwing this into an infantry company, I mean, this is just killer.
This is almost an auto take for any British player. I mean, I played in the Canadian regionals back in November, and the amount of Churchills that were running around there, I mean, I don't see any reason why we're not going to see that same thing with these Churchills.
Sure. And for those folks that are trying to stretch stuff from mid-war to late war, that there's that option except for the 75 millimeter gun.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, if you look between the 75 and the 6-pounder, the only thing the 75 millimeters got is a little gun barrel break. So unless you're playing, against a really big, we have to have historical accuracy. I'm not going to say anything if someone runs a 6-pounder instead of 75.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I should probably mention is you can get 6-pounders with the Churchill. So it bumps from an AT-10 to an AT-11 with a 4-up firepower.
Right, yeah, reduced firepower.
Now, the only thing is that the 6-pounder does not have direct fire smoke, while the 75 millimeter does.
It does have HE, though, doesn't it?
It does not.
Yes.
Oh, it says no HE?
I apologize. It does have HE.
Okay, good deal. So another formation, the D tanks, did we have those previously? Well, of course, they're not in Fortress Europe, so we can definitely say that. But I don't even remember in the D-Day version 3 books a whole lot of info about DD tanks. They seemed like they were more of an attachment for infantry company. I don't remember a whole formation of just DD tanks. I think that's a new thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So now DD tanks can be their own formation. Excuse me, I just got a quick scroll to it.
Yeah, and they're basically the same as normal Shermans, but they definitely lose a hull gun. They have less machine gun shots.
So their rate of fire. So their machine guns are rate of fire 4. So British tanks, I believe. I don't think that they had the.
They don't have the
50 cal.
No, not normally. Although we'll jump to the command cards. There is
Command
a command card that helps out with that for a little bit.
Yes, so you can take a command card which gives them 50 cals, but as far as straight just giving them, as far as their normal stats, they don't have a 50 cal.
Right, and
But
we used to see in version 3 that you would upgrade one British tank in a platoon to 50 cals, and that's gone. That's if you're looking for that in here, you're not going to see it. But there is a command card for specific units, which allows the entire platoon to gain 50 cals.
That is true, and that is one of my favorite. I want to talk about that command card when we get there, because it's well worth it.
Yeah,
but for the DD unit, I was looking at it. I was really hoping that there would be some kind of special rule along with it, but this is basically a copy and paste from Fortress Europe.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot different.
Yeah. Well, there is
apart from the Firefly
troop. Yeah.
Yes. So that is the difference. You can take a full troop of Fireflies. You can get 3 Fireflies for 16 points.
Yeah, and I think that's the first time I've ever seen that in a British list in Flames of War.
In late war, in version 4. So in Italy, there was the New Zealand option where they pooled all of their Fireflies together, and it was a unit of, I believe it was 4 Fireflies, it was ridiculously expensive. Like no one would ever use that many Fireflies in version 3.
If you're a guy like me that has the flail tanks and use the breaching groups, this is interesting because the flail tanks are a command card upgrade for the DD Shermans. That's how you get them out there. And instead of having 3 flails and a platoon leader without a flail, now it's just 3 tanks with flails. And then I guess the what was a platoon leader now gets joined with what was a platoon leader from another flail platoon, and they become your headquarters for the formation.
Yep.
So pretty interesting how they do that. And I guess let's transition to the breaching group, which is a command card formation. We already talked about the flail tanks. They also have the Avrays, and the Avrays in the past it was an option. You swap them out for the flail groups. Now you have to have 2. If you're going to run the breaching group, you have to have 2 Avrays platoon, and they have really changed this vehicle quite a bit. So why don't you guys tell the folks out there in the field how the Avrays have been changed for version 4?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting platoon. So you're only getting 2 Churchill Avrays for 8 points, but they are artillery. with a 6-inch range. They're only AT1, but they are auto firepower. And the rules that they have are they're brutal. So any infantry and gun team that's hit with these reroll their saves. They also have the bunker killer rule, which that is basically if you hit a bunker with this, anything in the bunker has to reroll its saves.
Yeah, just melts.
Yep.
Oh yes.
And the petard rule is really interesting because this rule basically states that you don't have to confirm your hits because you only have 2 guns firing, and it also doesn't suffer from danger close. So you can run this up with infantry right on top of it, and it's not gonna care about danger close.
Yep.
Sure.
And that is, I played with these. I wanted to play with these today, and just the opportunity to have an artillery to run up there, pin a platoon right before you assault is, I think, this is going to be an 8-point well spent. Because also with the petard rule, something else it covers, you can move and drop a bombardment. So
Yes.
you can move your full 8 inches plus, a possible a blitz move at the beginning. So a possible 12 inches, and then you have another 6 inches of range on your artillery. So you're talking about 18 inches kind of movement to drop a brutal artillery template with an auto firepower. That, good lord.
Yeah, I mean,
and you can take it as a and this is, I want to go back to the support units. We kind of talked formations back a bit more, but one thing I noticed in the wiring diagram for the formations and the forces is that it seems like everything comes in pairs. You can get a pair of avrays, a pair of crocodiles, a pair of, I mean, everything except for like the observers, a pair of armored cars, a pair of M10s, so everything is a pair of 17-pounders units. So you can just take a single one, or you could take 2. But if you're going to take the breaching group, you have to take both of them.
Well, actually, even as a support unit, the AVRE, it's a mandatory unit of 2.
Yeah. Well, I meant pairs. Pairs of units.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So instead of just bringing the 1, you can bring 2, which I mean, and that's been my biggest, not complaint, but the biggest thing that I've really hated about the support diagram is, man, I really like these M10s. I wish I could bring a few more of them. Now you can.
Yeah,
I really like
you can
this.
bring 8.
Yeah, I really like this AVRE. Oh, now I can bring 2 of them. So
without having to invest in another formation headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool.
Which is good, and I think that's something that this D-Day book for the Brits really gives the Brits a flavor that a lot of other countries don't have right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know one thing Austin's particularly excited about is the Typhoon stats.
Oh my goodness!
I would prefer that we don't tell British players that this exists. Because
everyone out there that plays Brits, stop listening to the podcast. Go to your local gaming store. Go to the website. Order 2 Typhoons, because these are going to be an auto include. And this is coming from someone. I just don't like playing with airplanes. They're so unreliable for me. You got to roll to get them even on the table. They can't contest objectives. I just don't like them. Yeah, but I saw these stats, and guess who has airplanes in their list now?
and we do, though, to mitigate that, you do have the option for the air superiority card like the Americans, which it reduces the enemies. And I may be taking that card when I run Brits just to keep other Typhoons from coming to get me. So they have to roll that 5+. But when you get towards the end of the game, or you have that one critical time where you really need them to come in, you can burn the card to have them automatically show up. So that can make me a little more interested in these things.
Yeah,
but let's hear about the stats. That's the most important thing.
All right. So the first thing that we should tell people is you can get 2 Typhoons for 8 points. This is one of the cheapest aircraft in the game.
And it's fair to mention that it's 1 point cheaper than the American P-47s.
Or unfair to mention.
Or unfair to mention. And don't even, compare this to mid-war Germans, like 14 points for an airplane, 9 points for an airplane. Oh my goodness. So we'll start with the bad. It's only got a 20mm gun, rate of fire 3, AT6 with a 5-foot firepower, range 8 inches. Nothing new there. It is what it is.
Don't care about the gun though.
But you don't take Typhoons for this gun.
No.
Take it for the rocket. This is the single strongest artillery template in the game. You have a 14-inch range, AT5, firepower 3 up.
Yeah,
These things are going to drop Tigers, King Tigers.
They're going to rip everything apart.
Anything. Name a tank, and I'll kill it.
The 14-inch range is going to help avoid enemy anti-air.
And if the hit on 5+ and save on 3 doesn't already help you, that 14-inch range, you can just avoid AA fire.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty awesome. Fortunately, I only have a single. My good friend Chris Grau, when Flames of War went to a single plane for each air choice, he gave me one of his beautifully painted Typhoons. So looking forward to getting that on the board, but I suppose I'll have to con him into painting a wingman for me.
Whatever you do, because it's worth it. It's just worth it.
I look at this and I think, why are my P-47s not this good? I mean, my God, this Typhoon is going to rip apart everything.
Yeah, it is. I think I'm gonna concur with Austin. I have the model. It shall be making an appearance.
It shall be making an appearance, and that's good. I like that.
Yeah. So what are we missing for the new stuff? I think we're doing pretty well on. There's just a ton of stuff. There's no way we're going to be able to cover it all in the time period we have. But one thing that I thought was interesting that's new was that the priest is in there. We've had the priest already, but the sexton is not actually in the book. But
no, it is a command card.
Yeah, that was an interesting approach. It kind of caught me off guard. So how does the sexton work for us there, Preston?
Well, I actually don't have the command card. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I'll tell you for starters, it's a 2-point downgrade from the priest, and with that downgrade, so I can't remember what the priest cost is, but it's minus 2 points to take the priest the sexton card that it changes your priest platoon into a sexton platoon.
Right.
The armor's lighter. I think it's 110.
110, and it basically turns it into a 25-pounder with some armor. For minus 2 points, which this is the next thing that people are going to really freak about. The 25-pounder is no longer the best artillery that you can bring in as a British player. And the sexton, it's just not that great either. It's just a 25-pounder because the new best artillery you can bring is naval gunfire support.
Oh yeah. But there is a command card for the 25-pounder, which is a regimental artillery group or some card. It's pricey. It's 1 point per gun tube, so it'd be a 4-point upgraded battery. But it does increase the firepower to 3+. But
you get that firepower.
Yeah, but is that available to the sexton, or is that just for the towed 25-pounders?
So the card would make it appear that it is just for the 25-pounder troop, not for the sexton.
That was my read. I was hoping it was wrong, but or hoping that maybe it would be FAQ'd or something. But I think that's the way it is printed.
I mean, if you want to pay 16 points for your priests instead of paying 14 points for them, Tom, you go right ahead, and I'll take that 2-point lead.
Yeah. Well, I'm only so interested in it because in my Irish Guards I do have a unit of sextons, so as their fire support that trundles along with them. So I'm going to have to, good or bad, get them out there and see how I can make them work or not. But we shall see. So cool. Are we missing anything else on the new side? I think.
Yep. There's just a couple things that I want to go over.
Mm-hmm.
The big one that I was really excited to see this is the Crocodile Flame Tank platoon.
Yeah.
This unit actually blew me away. So you can get 2 or 3 Churchill Crocodiles, which are front 11, side 8, top 1. Now I don't know if that top 1 is different from version 3. Austin,
no, it was top 1.
It was top 1. Okay.
Yep.
It had something to do with the flamethrower assembly, making it slightly more vulnerable.
It kind of stuck out the top of the tank.
Yeah.
Right. So this unit is confident trains, and it's hit on a 4-up. They have their standard 75mm gun, AT-10 with a 3-up. Now the big thing is that they have the flamethrower, which is a 6-inch range, and their rate of fire is 6. So if you're taking 3 crocodiles, you're getting 18 flamethrower shots per turn.
Just melting infantry platoons.
And being that these things are front 11, they don't care what they go up against as far as gun teams, unless it's a Pack 43.
But then even then, they're just kind of thinking about the Pack 43. They're not shivering.
Yeah, and the points. They are slightly less armor in the front than version 3, but in version 3, if I'm not mistaken, a platoon of 3 crocodiles was something like 390 points out of 1,000 points.
Oh, you're not imagining big enough. It was 510 points.
Oh, good Lord, was it that much?
Wow.
Yes, 510 points for 3 of them.
Well, I'll tell you, in this version for 3 crocodiles, they're going to be 21 points. So they're 7 points apiece. So it's not like they're cheap, but I think this is a really good support option to have.
Yeah. Well, but basically in version 3, they're in a 1,500 point army, they were 1/3 of the cost of the army. But now in a 100 point version 4 army, they're just slightly over 20%. So that's it just seems to me like that's more economical.
Much more.
Oh, yeah,
I think that's something that V4 has really done is it takes and makes things more economical just in general. Like everyone wants to play with their toys. So
yeah. I'm going to I know you guys are already working hard on an article for No Dice, No Glory, but one of the ones I want to do is specifically taking the list I ran at Adepticon, just, when the last time we had a chance to use the version 3 books, and then just try to rebuild it in version 4 and see if how it plugs in, and can I get more units, or how it works out. So very interested to try, because I like to play that force again, but I got to figure out if it's even possible organizationally in version 4. So good. All right. Well, are we missing anything, guys? I think I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if I can talk
missing,
about this.
The only thing that I'm missing from this book is my Tetrarchs.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a command card. It's not in the book. It's just not there, and it makes me sad.
Important to cover too. Yeah, I understand. Would we see those in Market Garden? Maybe they're just holding off for that.
Maybe they're holding off on that. Unfortunately, they didn't really take part in Market Garden as much as they did in D-Day. There were some there. I think there were 2 in Market Garden that they repurposed, but all 14 that landed on D-Day, unfortunately, they're going to stay on my shelf. So,
well,
no chance. You could run them maybe as honeys, just kind of proxy them, or the M5s. I don't know. That's even close enough.
I mean, they are much smaller than the M5, so I don't know.
Well,
there is some tactical.
Yeah, I'm just saying for stats. If you just run them as a M5 Stewart, just to put the model on the table and have fun with them.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah, yep. I've done that more than a few times so far in version 4. It's just a model I like out there.
Sometimes you get a proxy.
Yeah.
But
so for the formations, I think we're okay. But how about the command cards? Do we want to go a little bit more deeper into those?
Yeah. I mean, I would absolutely love to talk about a couple of them. Okay. So let's see here. Do you want to go over formation command cards, or just command cards?
That's
in general?
Good place to start with. I think we talked a little bit about one already, but and a few of them we've hit. But let's hit the new formations.
Okay, so let's see.
My favorite one. So one of my favorite formations in version 3 period was the 53rd Welsh Division. I thought they were just a great all-around infantry division. So I was a little upset to see that they weren't their own standalone, but they do get a formation card. So for 3 points, you're changing your war weary status for your motivation, which is a 4 or 5+. You're bringing it down to a 3+ for your Welsh units. Yeah, and you're digging in on a 3+ as well. So these guys are going to stick around. Not quite guards unflappable, but pretty close. And for 3 points for your entire formation, that's not too bad.
Yeah, and the bonus to dig in.
Yeah, and you never go wrong with that. That's one of my favorite things about Romanians, was the bonus to dig in. So, sometimes you can't unpin.
And one thing that surprised me, so even though we're talking book, D-Day British cards, there's a command card in there for the U.S.
Yes, there is. If it's the one that I think you're talking about, I'm really excited for.
Should every American player, honestly, because we were just talking about this unit, and it's worth bringing as an American player too.
Yep, and that's the 29th Infantry Division Crocodile Support Card. which basically allows an American player to field a Crocodile Flame Tank platoon as a support unit.
Yeah,
And
nice.
it's for 1 point more, so rather than 21 points for 3, I guess it's 22 points for 3. But even still, I saw that and I jumped for joy.
Yeah, I always just thought it was cool that amongst all these British cards, so
Yeah, it definitely was. That's definitely a curveball. Now, the other thing that the British can take, much like the Americans can take, is the FFI platoon and the FTP platoon, which is the Free French Infantry, and which are fearless green.
Mhm.
They're hit on a 3-up, but they don't count towards your reserves.
yeah,
And,
those right.
yep. And it's only 6 points.
I've noticed a lot of top, at least out in this area, we play against guys up in Able Company a lot, and every time I seem to be playing US these days, they have one of these platoons. Chris Fretz, last game I played, he had him. Chris Jackson, one of our NDNG buddies, he had him. So definitely popular.
Yeah,
They're very popular, and if you like playing with them, you'll be really happy to see the SAS Parachute Squadron. So, in addition to your command card of them, you can take a formation of them as a British player. So, you can take 3 platoons of FFI or FTP platoons, in addition to 6-pounders, mortar platoons, and 2 parachute rifle platoons as well. So
it's like a FFI army.
pretty much all the Frenchmen.
Yeah. Nice. Well, let's get back to the formation cards. I know there was a brief formation card, which we kind of touched on earlier. There was also a reconnaissance formation formation card, command card.
Yes. So you can take the Ray Chase Squadron. So you get an HQ unit of Daimlers and armored cars, and then you can take 2 to 3 Daimler armored car platoons, as well as 2 to 6 Universal Carrier patrols. Now, I want to talk about the Universal Carrier for a moment because these are going to be causing a lot of headaches for players that have to play against them. So with the Universal Carrier, you can upgrade any or all Universal Carriers in the platoon to a Piat anti-tank for 1 point each. So you can essentially have 18 Universal Carriers running around the board, all equipped with Piats.
Oh Lord, hit on 4s and with the scout rules, so they're being in terrain, they're hard to hit. Oh,
they
Lord.
they have the scout, they're hit on a 4-up base, and they have spearhead. So they're going to be causing a lot of problems if anyone takes this card.
Oh, and it's not just that. You put those on your Piat in rifle companies. You can take a whole bunch of them. To put this in perspective for people who are thinking about this, I own 32 Universal Carriers, and I cannot wait to play my Universal Carriers, because there's also a way you can give them 50 cals as well. So there's a 50 cal.
There's a card for that too. Yeah,
and it's
Universal
Carriers. Yep, and all of them.
Yeah, it used to be you could upgrade one track with a 50 cal or whatever number. Now it's if you buy 50 cals, they all 3 have 50 cals.
Yep. So
and now
you give them
I know
50s, you give them Piats. Good Lord, they're just going to be amazing.
Now I know one of the more popular lists for mid-war was the German armored car and Italian light tank list. Do you think that maybe this is going to be that list for late war?
Honestly, yeah, I could absolutely see it. So this actually reminds me, in mid-war as a British player, well, one of my favorite lists to play was the Honey Stewart list, and then you pair that with your recce lists with the Honey Stewarts with Universal Carriers or the Crusaders with Universal Carriers. Now the carriers were great when they just had MGs because you get so many of them. Now you put an AT-10 option on all of your carriers, put a 50 cal on all your carriers. I mean, now these things are running around. They can take out, honest to God, tanks. They can take out half tracks. They can take out infantry. They can dig infantry out of buildings.
That gives them an AA capability.
Yep, the 50 cals are now an AA option. So, I mean, you're taking a modest but good unit, and now you're in mass turning this thing into a killer of tanks.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a swarm to deal with.
Yeah, be interesting. I have a few, but I don't have the swarms of universal carriers like that. One thing that I do have though that's covered by the command cards, which is very very different than version 3, was the kangaroos. Again, very surprised they're in here at all. I didn't expect any of the 79th, the funnies, if you will, to be in there, but they're in there, and it's a 3-point card that allows you to add a transport for every 3 teams to get one of these, and which means that in the past, the last list I ran for Brits had the kangaroos. You had two transports which carried all 9 teams. Now it's 3 transports that carry all 9 teams, which that's so now I have to go out and pick up some more kangaroos to carry my 2 core platoons, and let alone any headquarters stuff. But the nice thing is that just brings more 50 cals to bear, and and they're front armor 3, so they're a little bit more chunky, robust, survivable vehicle than the half tracks would be.
Yep,
Yeah.
the M3. So I mean that's a decrease from front armor 5, but still a solid choice for 3 points.
Yeah, well, it helps with the 50 cals and the 20mm German guns.
It puts American half tracks to shame.
Yeah, very cool. So what else are we excited about here in the cards?
So, the command cards don't just bring formation options. They don't just bring cool new units. They also bring heroes. And the British have no lack of heroes. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heroes. And they range from absolute cheap to moderately priced. So we're getting a lot of heroes, which are going to, there's 2 in here that I think are really, really good. Peter Young for 4 points. The unit and other commando units within 6 inches of him in concealing terrain are also gone to ground. So now your commandos are also getting scout. That is ridiculous for your commandos.
Somebody gave me a blister of the commandos of Peter Young. I just remember that. So somewhere in my piles of boxes of stuff to do, I think these guys are going to have to get pulled forward. I think you're going to have to put these on the board.
As if the commandos weren't already amazing as it was, this just makes them even better.
Yeah, counterattack on a 2+, sweet. Just awesome. Awesome, man. He's been a formation commander. Awesome. Very cool. Another thing I thought for command cards that was really unique was the bridge card. So there's a
the AVR bridge.
That was really interesting. It kind of threw me off at first, but basically it's on the back of the card. What does it go with? It goes with the AVRE assault section.
Yep.
So basically, what it can do is the unit leader. You can deploy the card at the end of any movement step. Now, the unit leader cannot shoot or assault that turn, but you can place it down within 4 inches of the unit leader, and it basically becomes a bridge for impassable terrain.
Nice.
Which is really cool. And when he says deploy the card, he's actually says you're deploying the card. You're taking the command card and you're putting it on the table, and on the back of the card is a bridge.
Yeah,
and that's now your bridge.
Yep.
It's a 2D bridge printed on the back of the card.
Yeah. You place it down, and it can move across it at tactical or terrain dash speed.
Yeah.
Yep, and this works for the seawall. So when you're doing your beach landings, now you can get over the seawall a little bit quicker. Going over streams, literally is a river as far as the command card will go across. And for 1 point, it's not something you take in every list, but if you have an extra point, it's either that or lucky.
It's definitely scenario based. I mean, that's definitely if you're playing historical scenarios, that'd just be a hoot to get out there and play with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It definitely adds a flavor to the game.
Yeah. So I know Austin, you're working on some your article, some lists. So why don't you run a couple of your, because I know you're. And before we let you go, I wanted to get your experience and advice out there for our listeners out there in the field. But so what list are you looking at? Run down a couple 100-pointers for us.
So I played a 100-point game today at my local store against Bill White. So you all may be familiar.
Oh,
with
I know
him.
him. Yeah, right.
He's a pretty good player.
I've never met him, but I see him all over Facebook.
Oh, he's very popular on the Facebook.
Yeah.
And today Bill faced my 100-point list. So this is a friendly game. I didn't want to just crush his soul. So I brought the Air Landing Company, and I brought a 100-point Air Landing Company with infantry with the additional Piat, 2 platoons of 6-pounders, a 17-pounder platoon, MGs, mortars, Pack 75s. I filled it out. And the good news about that is all of those gun teams are in the formation. The air landing platoon is going to be such a hard formation to break. You can't break it. You've got to kill everything on the table. So for 100 points, that's going to be really good. And the neat thing about the air landing is the paratroopers are the same price, but you get one less stand of in the unit. So you're paying the same price for no mortar.
For the 6-pounders, are they in units of 4, or do they? I think you may have said that, but do they have the option for the 6-gun unit?
No, so they are. So the air landing and paratroopers are options of 4, and it's going to be the infantry units that have the option of 6.
Okay.
which are actually kind of interesting because for the desert veterans, you can get 6 for, I think it's 10 points for 6.
Yep.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's 8 points for 4 of them. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So I played that today, and that list did very, very well. I was playing against Panzer Grenadier list, supported by PZ4s and Flam Panzer 3s. And I really thought that was going to give me a run for my money, but it just has a great mix of artillery, of template weapons, of direct fire AT, having 8 Piats running around on the table. I had plenty of AT, I had plenty of firepower with the platoons themselves. And I mean, they're fearless vets. I mean, you go around, I was just running around the table, choosing where I wanted to go.
So you were out in the open against mechanized infantry. Was it a defensive battle or a meeting engagement? You may have mentioned the battle. What was the mission?
We were playing breakthrough, and my opponent, Bill chose to maneuver. I chose to attack. So I had first turn, and the opening salvo with all of those guns, I took out his 75 millimeter half tracks. I put a beating on his half tracks for his infantry. Didn't get to touch his mortar half tracks, but the opening salvo, just with all those gun teams, against tanks, against infantry, against mechanized, that's just a lot of AT. And I mean, you're talking AT 11 and 14, so something that you should worry about as an armored or mechanized player. And then, while you're hiding from all that AT coming down range at you, I've got 4 platoons of infantry that hit on 3s and assaults that are bringing Piats with them. Bring up the Piat because here it comes.
Right. So we've been accustomed. I know I certainly have been conditioned, I would say, that version 4 always currently looked at largely as a tank heavy, assault heavy meta. Infantry is kind of ascendant in this D-Day British book.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've believed since I started playing the game back in version 3, when version 4 came out, and even now, I play infantry only lists frequently. At Masters, I brought an infantry only list. My Romanians 2 years ago, infantry only. Infantry, I think, are really, really good. They're hard to kill. You can do a lot with them. They're very forgiving, especially for a new player. You lose 1 stand of infantry, it's not such a big deal. You lose 1 tank, it's kind of, that hurts.
Sure.
So it's a forgiving list. It's flexible. They can attack, they can defend, they can do both at the same time. So
yeah, I think I need to change my perspectives. The guy won the Las Vegas Open, Vincent Arroyo, who we have an interview with on the BattleVault podcast. He won. He won 8-1 in all 5 rounds. Fallschirmjägers, so fearless vet German infantry, and the only tank unit he had was Stu 42s. The 4 unit Stus.
Wow.
That was it. And he had some 88 pack front Overwatch for anti-tank, but I was like, wow, that's just I've been trying to push so hard into armor lately that I need to look at going back to my roots, which was British rifles.
And this is a great time to do it. So my
Now-
other list that I'm looking at. I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, the only thing I want to ask you, Austin, I know with the American airborne troops, they kind of were really pricey. How did you find that the British airbornes were as far as list building price wise?
Oh, I mean, for 11 points for 5 rifle MG teams, mortar, and 2 Piats. I mean, that's great. That's cheaper than it would be to build that same platoon in mid-war. So the infantry they're better and they're cheaper. So I think they're very well priced. I think the British force is very well set with, and then I mean that's just your paratroopers. Now you go over to the just your regular infantry. Now you're talking 8 points for the Desert Veteran platoon. So you get your standard 9-stand British infantry platoon for 9 points. So you can bring multiple formations of these guys and have 6 to 8 platoons, because that's another command card, the Pioneer Company, or the Pioneer Platoon.
Right.
You just get to add an additional platoon of infantry to your infantry formation, and they get flamethrowers. So
and they dig in very well.
and they dig in very well. They cross minefields. They're
Wow.
pioneers. So
Yeah, they'll have a use. And then there's a commando flamethrower card for the commandos, so you can upgrade them.
Yes, yes, you can.
That's
So-
pretty scary. They were scary enough as it was. But now I got that option too. Yeah,
but
very
yeah,
good.
infantry really good. Now on the flip side, and we kind of already talked about this, the list that I'm mulling around in my head is how can I fit 40, and I'm doing air quotes right now, Shermans into my list, because the universal carrier, as we were talking about, is ridiculous. And I have a whole bunch of them based on, I had the early war list, the Australian recce, DivCav, the Australian DivCav. So I have a whole bunch of them from there.
Sure.
But looking at that and seeing, you could take a minimalist rifle company. So now you have, your 2 formation or your 2 platoons of infantry, your HQ, and then you can bring 4 platoons of universal carriers. So for 20 points, you can give 12 universal carriers, Piats, and 50 cals, and then you duplicate that formation, and now you have 24. And then at 100 points, basically what I'm looking at is 3 formations of infantry with 36 spearheading not flamethrower. Well, you could do flamethrowers because you can make them wasps. And Piat, 50 cals out the wazoo, and like, okay, so you have a PZ4 formation. Keyword: you had a PZ4 formation.
A lot of Piat shots.
Austin,
That's a lot.
Austin, I was having a great night until you started talking about this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so the bad news about that list, and it's something that, this kind of list takes finesse. It's just like the 62 Honey Stewarts of Doom. There's a little finesse to that list because you step over yourself, and they're easy to kill.
Yeah, you bleed points.
Yeah, you're going to
If you're
bleed
not
points, and while you may not break the formation, you're going to lose a lot of carries, because they're front armor 1. So, rifle on a good day can kill one from the side. That's a really interesting list that I'm kind of interested in. They took away my Tetrarchs, but they gave me the universal carrier.
Yeah.
Just sneak some Tetrarchs in as at least a platoon of them as using the Stewart stats, and off you go.
Exactly. Well, I can just proxy Tetrarchs for universal carriers now. So.
Oh, you can use them for that too. I guess so.
So
it's a good thing that Battlefront made the universal carrier box and with 9 universal carriers in it. So
I know, and it's so cheap too. Cheap.
When I bought that box set, I made one of them as a WASP platoon for late war, and I did the other 2 for mid war for the forces. I was like, why did they give me so many universal carriers? I don't need them. Now I know why.
Now you know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had the Piats in there too, even though it was a mid war box set. It had the sprue had everything they needed for going to late war. So cool.
So thinking of them.
Austin, do you still have a few more minutes to hang with us, or I know?
Yeah, I've got about five more minutes, then I get to go serve our country. So.
All right. Well, we feel much safer knowing you're there. But
yes.
So I want to just the minutes remain. Is there anything more you want to cover? before you have
No,
to jet out?
I mean that's really just this is a great book. People complain about the Brits not having much in Fortress Europe, and patience is a virtue, and patience paid off for the British players. And looking at this now as a Soviet player, just hang on a little bit longer, because if
Oh.
this is indicative of what
Yeah.
patience gives you, Bagration is going to be such a great book.
Yeah. The Germans are going to need some help with the SS book, because they had that great US book, a little bit of a less fulfilling first German book. They're going to have that SS help pump them up.
And I mean, that's the one thing the Germans really lack right now, is a really good trained infantry formation. And I think the SS book is going to bring that cheaper. I say that in air quotes too, cheaper German infantry. But a cheaper German infantry, a more affordable tank. I think that's what the SS are going to give you. So I'm holding my breath for that book too. Like I thought the last German book was okay.
I did too.
Yeah, when I first saw the American book, I was like, wow, this is really good. When I saw the German book, I was like, kind of lackluster. When I saw this book, this is the first V4 book to really blow me away.
It is. I mean, I know a lot of our listeners aren't going to be able to see it, but on the No Dice No Glory group, we have our own Facebook group for the staff. And my immediate, as soon as I got this book to preview, my post was, British D-Day review. Stop everything and go and buy British models, because it's just that good.
Yeah, it is that good.
Yeah, it'll be good.
And I know I said that I primarily played German and American for late war, and I am looking forward to that SS book. But after reviewing this, I'm going to be picking up British, because I don't want to play against these guys.
Yeah,
I want to play them.
At least by having to play them sometimes. So.
Yeah, I think I'm certainly impressed. I have multiple late war British forces. Irish Guard tanks, British rifles, kangaroos, crocodiles, flail tanks, and I'm just amazed that everything I have for British late war is already in here. Sorry for Austin's Tetarks, but I'm a happy camper. I got and stuff I did not expect to get. I just did not expect flail tanks and breaching groups and basically the 79th Armor Division. I thought that was going to probably be in a 21st Panzer follow-on supplement, but boom, they're there.
And the way the support options run for this book, it just opens up list building so much. Now you're not just, it's a formation with 4 platoons of tanks in it. Yippee. Now that your 4 platoons of tanks can be supported by, all your black box options, but now the supports to this book are just insane. And if you see in the beginning, you can also use the Fortress Europe as your support, so you can bring in some of the stuff over from Fortress Europe. So just in case you wanted to get that more solid infantry, you can still get that infantry from Fortress Europe as a black box support. So a lot of people give version 4, it's not, you can't build historical lists, but with the flexibility of this book plus Fortress Europe, I think, you might have to do some history research. You can't just, I'm going to play the 72nd Infantry Brigade. It's not pre-built for you, but I think all the options are here.
Yeah, and we only scratched the surface of there are 6 heroes. We talked about one. There are a lot of, just as much as the U.S. With all the special U.S. division rules, just the same for the Brits. There's bunches of them in there, so lots of options to tweak and adjust just the way you want.
Yeah, and I think these British lists are going to be very expansive. There's a lot of options, so I don't think it's going to be like the mid-war British book where you're only getting 6 platoons. As Austin said, you can get a ton of platoons with this book in your force.
Oh yeah, I won't go so far. Mitch is listening, so I can't say meta, but
yeah, you can. Go ahead.
If we say meta 3 times, will Mitch show up?
Yeah, I think so.
But I think there's definitely going to be a shift of what people are looking at and what people are planning against. So now as a Soviet, American, Italian, eventually Italian player, German player, you've now got to expect these kind of lists. They exist. So what are you going to do to change the way you play? Because it's not just a basic infantry company. It's not just a Sherman company. Now it's Shermans that can reroll firepowers. It's now Shermans that have 50 cals. It's now 36 universal carriers with AT-10 Piats.
Shermans with flails.
Shermans with flails, exactly.
Nice.
This is probably one of probably the most expansive book in V4 so far.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I have no complaints, and even I know Austin with the Tetrarchs is a bit of a letdown, but there's way more stuff for him to be excited about. So, well, guys, I know Austin has to depart for work, and I think folks out there, we could, as you could tell, I think we could probably go on for about another day talking about this, but we're going to have to call it here and let Austin get back to defending us all. And for everybody who tuned in, thank you. And please go to the forum for No Dice, No Glory. Number one, let us know what you think. Give us some feedback. And number two, join in the discussion. We've just started it. There's a lot more to go into here, and we're glad to keep it going on the forum. So with that, I'd like to thank you all, and especially want to thank Preston and Austin for joining us tonight. It's been very enlightening and very, very, very much a lot of fun. And we're looking forward to doing it again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom, for having us and listening to my ramblings.
No, it's very, very good information. Preston, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate being on here.
All right, take care and good night to all out there in Flames of War and Team Yankee Land. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Target! Ceasefire!